The Honourable Chief Justice, Honourable Members of the Judiciary, Honourable Attorney General, Acting Solicitor General, Members of the Diplomatic Corps, Members of the legal profession, distinguished guests and panelists, ladies and gentlemen. Meu Sambulare, and a very good morning to you all. As I walked to the podium, I forgot my glasses there, because I saw all the lawyers are looking at me today. But I find it fitting that at one of my first official events as your president in this 23rd Attorney General's Conference, because there's nothing more important in a true democracy than the rule of law. If we adhere to the rule of law, if we honor and submit to the rule of law, which simply means no one is above the law and everyone is treated equally, then we will have stability as a nation state. If we have just laws and respect our laws, then we can right wrongs and we can correct injustice. The rule of law must protect the weak, the vulnerable, and the disadvantaged. The rule of law must hold power to account and ensure fairness. And importantly, if we respect the principles of the rule of law, we can change those laws that no longer serve us or that no longer seems just. As legal practitioners, you are the guardians of the law, no matter which side you represent. That is why professional standards for legal profession are so high, and why punishments for violating those standards can be so severe. In the end, our system works on trust and integrity. I have my own personal experience with the legal profession. I have 2 nieces and a cousin who are lawyers. During the graduation dinner some years ago, I was feeling great. I was feeling a great deal of pride in my niece and my cousins. And I said, now, I know I'm protected with the law since I have family who will guide me along. And I will also have advice from my cousin lawyers and my niece to address my people on the aspects of the law. Even though I knew some aspects of the law, but that was street law. I didn't believe that I would ever need a lawyer to get me out of trouble, but I don't think most people do. But I also never dreamt that one day I would be the custodian of the law as the head of state, with a responsibility to appoint and swear in judges and magistrates. And I am now here with you, the guardians of our law, as you gather to understand how changes in the law and how new laws will affect the people you must represent. Of course, laws must change to keep abreast of and ahead of changes in our society. New technologies requires new laws. New kinds of relationship between people require laws. When we become enlightened to past injustice, we write new laws so that we can be more of a society. The world is on a continuous track of transition. So is Fiji. We must embrace change. But more importantly, perhaps, we must understand it. I've had a look at the program for this 2-day conference, and I'm not surprised to see that the subjects to discuss are the cutting edge of policy and jurisprudence. That has become the brand of the AG's annual conference. It has become an event that pushes the envelope. This year's topics are particularly important because they affect the way people live, the way they make their living, the way they conduct their business, and the way they see their culture. One of the subjects in this conference is banking. Until recently, payment services were the exclusive domain of banks and few other financial institutions. Nowadays, telecommunications service providers have entered the market and started offering new products to people. This has positive effects in terms of financial inclusion, since it allows people to transfer or receive funds even if they have no bank accounts. It is a tremendous help to the disadvantaged and to people who don't have access to a bank. However, these services present a number of risks that needs to be monitored and mitigated. The recently enacted National Payment System Act 2021, which we will be discussing in the first session today, empowers the Reserve Bank of Fiji to oversee the payment industry and to regulate the market in a way that reduces both systematic risk and the risk for customers using non-traditional means of payment. This will protect people and should not cut down on opportunities of fraud. This system also facilitates payment between bank and non-traditional banking facilities or money wallets, paving the way to entirely digital transaction and truly cashless payments. The second session is titled, Who Do You Serve? I know lawyers must be zealous advocates for their clients, regardless of who your clients may be. You must treat them all alike, whether they are rich or poor. Whether you are a lawyer working for the Lands Transport Authority or the Aegis Chambers, you have a fiduciary duty. Even though legal aid provides free legal services, they have a fiduciary duty. What is the ambit of that duty? Simply because someone is less educated and maybe not paying for your services directly. Does that mean you lower your standards or reduce the scope of your duty? Does that mean you limit discussions with them or provide them with a narrower disclosure and fewer instructions? In a just society, the answer to this question is no. As a legal practitioner, you must strive to be principled in your duties, and you must demand the same of your colleagues across this entire profession. Another field of discussion is critical in our society because it deals with a basic need: shelter and residential tenancy. Fiji does not have a specific legal framework that is dedicated to the regulation of residential tenancy. To develop that framework, it will be important to address core issues such as legal rights and obligations of both a landlord and a tenant. Furthermore, we are a unique country. 95% of land in Fiji can only be leased. 91% of that is tauke land, and 4.5% belongs to the state. We will need to find ways to address tenancy issues at the grassroots level and put in place reliable and transparent process to resolve disputes fairly and correct injustices. The views and experience you share at this conference will make great contribution to building a solid framework. Ladies and gentlemen, our custom and traditions make us unique. They help define us as a people and a culture. While we can all take pride in and enjoy the symbols of Fijian culture, we must nonetheless ensure that they are not exploited to a level that causes them to lose their special place. So I hope we can all join together to find ways to recognize the proprietary rights of our customs and traditional knowledge at the same time that we enjoy them, we display them, and employ them. Intellectual property is about more than protection, it's about empowerment. In order to provide this protection, we must be able to find identity, which designs, which artwork and traditional knowledge belongs to which subset of the community, indigenous or otherwise. To give one example, the tauke culture involves sharing of traditional knowledge and traditional cultural expressions and designs that have been passed down through our long history. As we all know, the tauke culture and history are also oral, and we lack a written record that will give us the certainty as to who owns what and where a particular design comes from, which province or which district or even which yavusa. Untangling this will not always be an easy task, especially when emotions run high and the feelings of ownership are strong, and especially when ownership can translate into financial gain. The Ministry of Tauke Affairs is undertaking a nationwide exercise on cultural mapping to be able to transcribe, file, and compile an accurate record of the Tauke traditional knowledge and traditional cultural expression to help them discern what intellectual property belongs to each community. Once this is complete, the relevant legal framework set up, it will provide a way of traditional communities to protect their designs, traditional totems, or traditional knowledge. The last topic of the conference is particularly an interesting one. Industrial hemp is proving to be a high-value business. And Fiji must not hesitate from tapping into it. Industrial hemp has been called a wonder plant due to its estimated 25,000 different uses, which include food, fibers, rope, textile, paper, and even building materials. These industries provide thousands of jobs globally, and many countries are finding that industrial hemp offers huge economic potential. The industrialization of hemp is far-reaching. It's far-reaching implications, and not only for current government policies and legislation addressing this illegal use and effects of hemp, it also challenges us to re-examine the current laws and institutional structures supporting the agricultural export industry and develop an all-encompassing institutional legal framework. I fully acknowledge that this cannot be done overnight. A great deal of supporting framework is required. But I think the fact that we have already started discussion on the matter, I think it's a positive sign. You are professionals, and you are here to learn and contribute to learn what is new in the law and contribute to the development of new laws. We have an impressive lineup of international panelists participating in these discussions, and I urge you all to take full advantage of this global state of expertise. I can tell you, no matter how high you may rise, or how high you may think you have risen, or how educated you may be, or how much advice you have given, or how many cases you have won, there's always more to learn. As the saying goes, ego kills knowledge, as knowledge requires learning, and learning requires humility. I'm reminded by my dad, when I first went to work for the Tauke Affairs. He said, son, before you go into work there, you'll be there solving land issues, traditional title issues. And he told me, before you ever make a decision, always think and feel it first before you make a decision. So in that spirit, ladies and gentlemen, let us all contribute positively to the discussions throughout this conference and take full advantage of the knowledge imparted as well as the networking opportunities. Your country will thank you and your clients will thank you. May God bless you all and may God bless Fiji. Nakabaleu, thank you, and I wish you all a Merry Christmas and a very Happy New Year.